There you go. Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful night. It is Mystery Review episode 25. And with me, I got my niece, Zoe. So, yeah. Tonight's stream, where are you going? No, you stay here. Is going to be, yeah, she's going to screech. So, sorry if y'all have headphones. So, yes, I know. Yes. Yes, I know. She's an active one. She's only 11 months. Almost 12. Or almost a year. So, yeah, here. Over here. There we go. So, hey, Zoe, look. Look. We're live. We're live. We're live. Yes, we are. And so, tonight's mystery review, with the hints, I gave John Hughes. And I gave... I know. Look. We're live. We're live. We are live. And John Hughes and Basket Case. And I gave a bonus hint, which was, I want to be an Air Force Ranger. Hey, how you doing, Captain Trek? I'm doing my mystery review. Looks like this kiddo. All right, look at this kiddo. What's up, Orange? Hey, how you doing, Price is Right, Captain Trek? Where is the orange hat for the little one? She wears this one sometimes. But yes, this is my niece, Zoe. Zoe, say hi. Say hi. Okay, put your feet up. There. There. She has her feet up. And so, yes, we're going to be, for those of you who haven't guessed, I'm going to be reviewing The Breakfast Club. Now, this movie is one of the best movies that I've seen. And I've seen it years ago, and I've loved it ever since. And it is really a good movie. And hey, Austinator, good to see you. And one thing I really like about The Breakfast Club is it spoke to the stereotypes. Hey, how you doing, Happy Dino? It spoke to the stereotypes of high school. This movie is basically called out the stereotypes and dared to speak against them. Yeah, this is my brother's daughter. This is Zoe. For those of you who haven't met, this is Zoe. And you've heard her in the background in one of my videos where she was making noises and whatnot and playing around. But yeah, I figured I would, while my other two brothers are actually playing video games in the other room because they haven't had some time together for a while, figured I'd take this one. Oh, where are you going? Where are you going? So I am going to take periodic breaks to kind of just give her a little bit of wee. Wee! See? Wee! And that calms her down. So, yeah, look. Imagine if Breakfast Club was rebooted with Today's Child and Team Celebrities. Yeah, it would totally be woke. Let's just say that. But yes, one thing I do love about this movie is that I can actually relate on some level with all of them, with each character. The basket case, the princess, the criminal, the sporto, the athlete, and the brain. The pinky and the brain. But yes, I do love how this movie, all it is a movie that takes place during Saturday detention. That's it. It is that simple. But the movie itself is also very profound. Now, I do also have my talking points. So, yes, the movie starts with simple. Yes, I know. The movie starts with Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me. This movie is directed by John Hughes. I know. Hey, why are you screaming? It stars Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald. Hey, you want to go with your daddy? You want to go see daddy? Okay, hold on, folks. I'll be right back. Oh, come on. We're back. And here. Play with the block. She'll play with it. She'll hopefully keep her. But yes, sorry I've been away. Building your physical evidence again as well. Oh, that's good. And how y'all doing? But yes, sorry, I got my niece with me. So this is Zoe. She's 11 months. And she's a pain in the butt. Yes, I know. And yes, how you doing? How you doing, Craig? Okay, back. And so, yeah, this movie starts with Saturday Detention. Craig, you and I could definitely speak to Saturday Detention. We've both been there, I believe. And, yeah. Oh, we're too cute. Well, stop throwing it. Stop throwing that. There. And so, yeah. No, you're not going to throw it. There you go. This is going to be a long one, folks. Anyway, I'm hoping she'll zonk out. Ooh, hit one. Pardon me. There, play with that. Yeah. So, no, you play with that. And so, yes. Oh my gosh. Best YouTube live I've seen this November. I know, right? An 11-month-old Zoe. Hey, you are going to stop screaming. You understand? Mwah. Well, there you go. Anyway, yes. So this movie stars Molly Ringwald, Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, Anthony Michael Hall, and Ali Sheedy, with Paul Gleason as well as Vernon, the teacher. So, using a baby to bump up views. Oh, that is not what I'm doing, Craig. But I have to watch her while I'm streaming because my brother, he needs the help. Yes, there you go. And so this movie is what? Okay, well, watch your head. Grab your block. So, yes, I'm going to be watching her so she doesn't do anything because she is 11 months old. And this kid is, oh, thank you. Not supposed to eat that. 1 second, folks. Seriously? Okay. Hold the ball. You are not going to be dropping that ball all the time. Anyway. There. And if you drop it one more time, you lose it. She learns, believe it or not. She's actually very capable of learning. And I'm not going to let her drop it this time. But yes. This movie basically has all of them in Saturday Detention with each other. And they have to basically just make it through the day. Now, one of the things I really do like about this is the introduction of each character. It basically, you are not confused on which character is which. You know who each character is just by looking at them. Anyway, yeah, now you threw the ball. Now you can't get it. And no, that is sharp. So, yes, here, have a drink. Have some drink. No drink? Okay. 1 second, folks. I'm going to try to get her to go with her dad. Sorry for the shrill. Believe me, it hurts my ears a lot more than it hurts yours. I'll be right back. Yeah. I'm back. Okay. I'm sorry. It is, yes. I find it funny how Molly Ringwald, she had a better career starting out with stuff like Breakfast Club when she's more established in films like Gem and The Holograms. I honestly don't know a lot of her movies because I haven't seen a lot of her movies except Short Circuit. But yes, now that you have all met my 11-month-old, let's get on to the movie. So, yes. This movie was released in 1985. That was also a small hint on Facebook, basically going back to the year I was born, because I was born in 85. This movie is a cult classic that has brought a huge gift in deconstructing the stereotypes of kids in high school. It starts with all the kids arriving at Saturday detention, with a letter, narration of Anthony Michael Hall, the brain, as they call him. But it seems incomplete. You actually understand that it seems incomplete because some of the themes in this movie would be shunned by modern audiences, especially the SJW variety. Because while they're showing or going through the narration, or of Anthony Michael Hall, you see some of the different lockers and whatnot, and you see a destroyed locker with some burnt remains to it, and you see another locker that says, if you open this locker, you die, and it says the FAG derogatory term. Fag, basically. And no, I do not mean that in the derogatory term. I am simply explaining the movie's context, folks. So, yes. And as I said, this movie would not be made today. Not word for word, line for line. So, each character, you learn when they or how they, why they have Saturday detention. Now, the parents to the brain, the princess, and the athlete all are stereotypically pushing the stereotype of their child's character. Notice when Emilio Estevez gets in, he looks for approval to sit in a spot where Molly Ringwald's character, Claire, is. You know, he's being kind, but he's also he is a jock. He's semi below the standard of Molly Ringwald's character, the princess, high society. And that's the norm. In high school, folks, it was very stereotypical. There were groups. Even in my time in high school, they had those kind of groups. But it was lesser than back in the 80s of this movie, you know? Now, the stereotypes dictated how kids acted, because you acted what was expected of you, and what was expected of you had to match the status quo. Camera continuity errors also were in this movie, but they don't really hurt the movie too much. I will say that this movie is actually very well put together. However, there are continuity errors. My current generation is in a civil war between common sense or based Gen Z like myself and the woke Zoomers. Yeah. So, yeah, Johnny Five is alive. Yes. Molly Ringwald, or not Ringwald, but Ali Sheedy played in that one. So, we then, or after each character's in detention, I like how you also see the criminal, Judd Nelson's character. I really like Judd Nelson's character, Bender, because he's the character that just really sells the movie for the most part. He is the character that everybody loves in this movie. And then we get introduced to Paul Gleason's character, who plays the hard-ass teacher that hosts the detention, with the essay of 1,000 words describing who they all think they are. Bender and the Brain establish their characters early on, even though their wardrobe has done that for them. And before detention begins, the basket case, Ali Sheedy, sets up her character perfectly. I mean, the way that she acts is almost feline in a way with its bipolarity, or she's very bipolar in this movie. The movie does a good job showing all the awkwardness of each of these characters and of different stereotypes being together when they are barely seen together at all in high school during normal hours and normal days. So it's due to the stigma of stereotypes. Now, one thing that this movie does do a very good job at is that when describing the stigma of each stereotype, it uses the dialogue between each character. Each character is basically describing how they live, what they do, what their life is like. And it really goes to the it really is owed to the writing and the directing of this film. Now, yes, there is camera continuity errors a lot, as I did say. One specifically is when Bender enters the library, and he motions with in one camera angle to Brian. He's like, and then it switches to another camera angle where you see him pointing with his right hand instead to the for him to move, basically. And he does move. So that is, yes, it's a camera continuity error. And this movie does have several of those, but they, like I said, they don't really hurt the film too much, because if you see it, yeah, you'll see it. It just means you got a good sharp eye. Now, Bender's shenanigans with the door, where he unscrews the door so that it won't stay open. I love how Vernon demands it from each student because he doesn't know who did it. And then he yells out, "Ho!" And Ali Sheedy squeaks when she's yelled at. And, oh, hey, you. And, yeah, family. Come on. And so I love how she's just like, or she's like, and then she just smacks her head down, and they're like, she doesn't talk, sir. And then she squeaks, and she basically squeaks an affirmation. And it's just so great. So, the door and continuity error, there's another continuity error with that door scene where when Vernon goes in, that chair that he uses, or that he uses in his first failed attempt, is not there. So when he goes back to shoot it, yes. Thank you, Happy. He is, yeah, he's a good guy. That reminds me, I have a trope I call the CW teenager, basically an obvious 20-year-old playing a teenager. Yes, that is essentially what these people were. They were in their 20s playing teenagers. But they still worked for the most part because they still had that very youthful look to them. Plus, makeup does wonders. So when Vernon grabs the chair, it's conveniently there. It's a continuity error, but it still works. It's barely noticeable. And he then uses Emilio Estevez's character, Andrew, to take the magazine case to open the door. And Bender calls him out. He's like, I'm sure the fire safety violation endangering kids in a library and whatnot, because what if there's a fire, you know? And he then yells at Emilio Estevez's character. It is freaking. He's like, "What is wrong with you? What is wrong? Get this out of here!" It's like, you came up with the idea, but it works. You know, it really does. So this movie, it is a slow burn, but it works all the way through. It is a burn. It is a slow burn, but it is a burn that burns bright for this movie. Now, Vernon's bias towards Bender is very apparent with the challenging and the 2 months of Saturday detention, the cracking skulls jinx. I mean, he's like, if I have to come in here again, it then cuts to Bender, I'm cracking skulls. He literally just mouths that as he's saying it, because you get the idea that this is what Vernon says a lot, you know? And Again. Hello again, folks. And look, there's Zoe again. Hi! So, yes. Family laws, but you gotta look. Yes, family. Yeah. So, yes. Back to the movie. Or after Vernon leaves the room after the cracking skulls, Jinx, you hear the big FU from Bender, and it's very muted and then you see, and it was muted on purpose, but the look on Vernon's face shows a little remorse, it seems. And Bender's soft F after he gets 2 months worth of Saturday detentions shows that he was pissed at getting more of them. Now, oh, you sus. You sus. And then we get the boredom scene where they all are just really extremely bored. And the naps and how you see that they're, what? There. Bump, 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 bump. You're not going to reach my computer. Now, I love when they're all napping and Vernon comes in, and it shows the clock every now and then too. And he comes in, he's like, wake up. And they're all still laying down, and they're just, and he's like, who needs to use the lavatory? They all raise their hand, And this is just a movie that is pure comedy gold, first off. Are you done? Are you done? Are you done? Here. Ball. Yeah. Yes. Yes. There's a ball. Now play with the ball. Yes. I know it matches my color. So all of them have to use the bathroom, and Molly Ringwald talks about her parents, which triggers a ha from Ali Sheedy, just because. And then Bender starts pushing Andrew's buttons. Andrew is Emilio Estevez's character. And he then interrogates Claire with questions of intimacy. With have you ever kissed a boy on the mouth? Have you ever allowed one to feel you up? And she's like, I'm going to be sick. But if you notice her character, if you actually notice Molly Ringwald's character, she actually can't take her eyes off of Judd Nelson in this scene. No, you got to stay in here. I know. Hey, look, that's you. Look at that. That is you. Oh, yes, I know you're angry. See? Yes. Yes. And now you lost it. And so, hold on. Okay. So, yes. I'm going to keep the camera off because if she sees herself in the she does that. So, sorry about that, folks. Family time, and it 2 kids, young. So yes, the or as I was saying, if you really pay attention, you notice that Molly Ringwald's character Claire cannot take her eyes off of Bender until Emilio Estevez's character steps in, and they get into a little tussle. And Bender warns me, he's like, "You don't want to do this, man. Why not?" Because I kill you. And then he's like, "Oh, all right." And then he pulls the knife, and he then stabs it into the chair. Which, if you notice, while they're talking, while Emilio Estevez is like, "You don't look at her, you don't talk to her, you don't even think about her." While he's looking at, or while Bender is looking at him, you see Molly Ringwald just reach in, grab the knife, and reach out of the screen. It really is very fun to watch. Now, I am sorry that I have been distracted. This is a very impromptu situation that we're doing tonight, which is why I got her favorite toy, and now she's really just engrossed in it. So yes, we have my nephew screaming in the background because of other reasons. Diaper rash. But anyway, then the janitor comes in. The next scene of significance where the janitor comes in, and I love how Bender tries to ask him a question. He's like, "How does one become a janitor?" He's like, "You want to become a janitor?" No. Andrew wants to become a janitor. He's really taken an interest in the future in the custodial arts. And he's like, "Oh, you really?" I love how he just tells them flat out. He's like, "You all think that he's or being a janitor? You guys ignore me. It's great." And he lets them know. He's like, "I'm the secret keeper of this place. I know I've listened to your conversations. You don't think I do, but I do. I know everything about you all." And it's like, oh my God. And then he looks at his clock, which comes to the final hint that I gave. That clock is 20 minutes fast, by the way. And they all laugh about it because they know that, yes, I know. Hold on. Yes, yes. Play with it. Sorry, folks. I do also have to pay attention to her. So you then get the whistling scene where they all go. And then they all do it at the same time. You see Ali Sheedy try to whistle. she's like, but you get the idea that she doesn't really do it very well. And then you have Vernon come in, and Bender's like, it really is nice. So then he has Emilio Estevez and Ali Sheedy's character go get drinks, and Emilio Estevez asks, he's like, "Back, take him for a ride." Okay. And he then has, he has her. He asks her, "What does she like to drink?" And he's like, "Okay, don't answer." And she's like, "Vodka." He's like, "Vodka." Oh, let me get your toy. Yeah, there you go. And really, you want your bottle instead? 1 second, folks. Again, I do apologize, but this is life right now. Spain, orders, to sail back to Boston. And so nevermore shall we see you again. Yeah. Thank you, Sherry. And she's close to zonking out. Just once she's zonked out, I'll get her laid down. But yeah. So I love how they then start talking with Ali Sheedy's character and Emilio Estevez's character. So, okay. Here, let's get 1 second, folks. Just give me 1 second. Okay? Yeah. Come on. Let's get you your. Okay. We're going for a ride. 1 moment. I'm back. She's now asleep, so I'm going to be a little quieter. So if you need to, turn up your volume. She's right here, as you can see. She's a sound sleeper, so we should be safe. So when Ali Sheedy and Emilio Estevez are talking in the hall, she asks, why are you here? And he asks her, why is she here? And she's like, well, why are you? And he backs off and he deflects it. And he tells him how he's expected to act in such a way. And she's like, and she immediately sees through it. It really is good. Now, back in the library, you see the other three are talking, and they basically are talking about, well, sex, and he's calling Brian, the brain, a cherry. He's like, I'm not a cherry, and he's like, who have you been with? She's from Canada. You wouldn't know her. Well, has there been anyone from here? So he's like, and he motions to Claire. Claire doesn't like that because Bender immediately outs him. He's like, were you or were you not motioning to Claire? And she's like, what's going on? Well, apparently Brian is saying that you two are with the huge amount of women he's doing in Niagara Falls, you and he are bumping trombones or something like that. She's like, what? So he's like, it's my personal business. And he shuts him down. And Claire then basically scolds him, but also is like, you didn't have to say that. I mean, I have no problem with, or there's no problem with a person being a virgin, essentially. And then he's like, really? And then she looks at Bender, and Bender looks at her, and then she gives him a nod, basically saying that she's cool with it. And, so then we get to the lunch scene. Claire pulls out her stuff, her sushi, which is typical of a rich kid, and Bender is looking at her. He's like, what is that stuff? Sushi? What is it? And she explains it's raw fish, rice, and all that stuff. He's like, so you won't accept a man's tongue in your mouth and you're going to eat that? She's like, can I eat? I don't know. Go ahead. See if you can. Good luck. And then they watch Emilio Estevez pull out like a ton of food. I mean, he pulls out like chips. He pulls out sandwich and a bunch of other things like orange juice and whatnot. It's the typical diet of an athlete, a lot of food, carbs and whatnot. And it's like, he's like, what? And they're like, no. So then he goes to pick on the brain, Brian. And Brian's lunch is brought to you by Bender. And I love how he's like, so what do we got? And so Brian's like, milk, soup. And so he goes back, and Brian tries to reach over to the bag, and he slaps his hand. He's just like, mm-mm. And it is so funny, folks. Every scene in this movie has either a very serious tone or a very comedic tone or a nice blend of the two. And during the lunch scene, it's very lighthearted and it's very fun. And so then he pulls out milk and then pulls out all things. He's like, this is a wonderful lunch you have, Brian. It's all the major food groups. Did your mother marry Mr. Rogers? No, actually, Mr. Johnson. It's like, oh my gosh. So, as this happens, we also see Ali Sheedy putting her sandwich together, she takes out the bologna, tosses it, and it hits the sculpture. You see it splat. And while she's customizing her sandwich with a bunch of sugar straws with the bread, you see the bologna fall back down. And you even hear the splat because it splats off screen. Now, she puts Captain Crunch in it, lots of sugar and the bread. She crushes the Captain Crunch, and then she bites it. And the scene was funny. She had a sugar high. Yes, she really did. And I just love how you just see this big crunch, and as people are looking at her, she just winks. She just winks her eye, and it is so freaking. It's like, yeah, she's very animal like in that, and I love it. So then we get to Bender asking or doing an impression of Brian's family. And he's like, or he basically, it's like the perfect kind of family. And he's like, isn't life swell? And so Estevez challenges Bender about his family. And he's like, what's your family? Mine? Well, that's easy. And then he has his father being calling him a bunch of stupid, or this is where the tone really changes, where he basically is told that, or he's giving his own family impression, and it's a very abusive situation where his mother also starts talking, and he's like, "Shut up, bitch! Go fix me a turkey pot pie." And he's like, "Well, Dad, what about you?" "Fuck you." "No, Dad, what about you?" "Fuck you." "No, Dad, what about you?" "Fuck you." And then it becomes a fight. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't believe a word of it. You'll say anything to make you just sound, or to make it sound real." And that's when Bender decides enough is enough of this asshole. He goes up. He's like, and he pulls up his arm sleeve, and you see the cigar burn. "This is what happens when you spill paint in the garage. Do I stutter?" Because Estevez did a stutter joke or a stutter jab at him. And then he's like, "You know what? I don't need to eat with you assholes or sit with you assholes anymore." And then he just wrecks a little bit of the library, climbs up onto the upper stair area, and then he just sits there. And during this time, we then get a cut to frickin' Vernon, who's eating orange slices and getting coffee. And the coffee that spills, it looks like tar, folks. I'm like, what the fuck did they get this coffee from? You know? I mean, I'm thinking it came from the Gremlins movie, where it was really, really thick, syrupy kind of coffee when he was making his coffee machine. And so then Vernon has to leave to go get coffee from the faculty lounge, and sneaking out of detention. Now they go to Bender's locker. They're like, why do we need to go to Bender's locker? That's stupid. Or what if we get caught? And the brain is basically taking his anxiety out. And Emilio's like, if you ask me one more question, I'm going to I'm beating the shit out of you. It's the best way to get people who are nerds to shut up, folks. Just threaten them with violence, and it usually works. Kidding, of course. Don't really threaten them with violence. But there's a continuity error. Or, no, wait. Hold on. I accidentally jumped up a little bit. So then we get to the famous running through the halls scene. And after they go to Bender's locker, which has a fucking mini guillotine in it, it's like, no wonder Vernon is angry all the time. His coffee sucks. Exactly, right? And Brian's face was hilarious. Yes. And you see this fucking mini guillotine just slide down. You also see a freaking lynch rope in there, a miniature lynch knot. And I was like, what the fuck? I mean, like I said, folks, this movie would not be made in today's time, because people would say, oh, it's racist, it's sexist, it's homophobic, and all that other bullshit. Where people who are complaining about this stuff, they actually need to watch this movie on repeat for like 12 days with their eyes just held open, so that they can understand the world doesn't give a fuck about your feelings, you know? So he then pulls out like a huge paper bag, pulls out a smaller paper bag, and then an even smaller paper bag, and then he pulls out like this about a handful of weed that can fit into my hand, like right here. And they're running through the halls. They see Mr. Vernon. They start running. Ali Sheedy just stays right there while they're all running and sliding and whatnot. It's the very iconic scene where they slide. And it is freaking hilarious. And no matter where they seem to go, thank God she slept through that. No matter where they seem to go, Bender just seems to be coming out in one space or another. And so they stop listening to Bender and they start trusting frickin' Emilio to go in his area. And you get the... Hold on one second. Yeah. So, yeah. They find, or they're caged in at one area, and Bender is like, or he's like, no, just me. I'll lead him away. You guys get back to the library. And he shoves the weed in freaking the brain's pants, and he's like, keep your unit out of it. And then he starts screaming the bonus hint that I gave. I want to be an Air Force Ranger. I want to lead a life of danger. Which Vernon takes the bait. He takes the bait, and you then see him running further in, and then you hear him in the gymnasium. And then you see him, 3, 2, 1. And then he slam dunks the ball, and you see freaking Vernon like, Bender! And he's like, what are you doing? I was thinking about joining or trying to get a scholarship. And he leaves one of his shoes in the gym when he's escorted out. And so that gets him segregated from the rest of the group. And he's like, and you then find out just how hold on one second, folks. I'm going through the talking points. So let me just cut out all the stuff that already is been gone through. And there we go. So then he gets pulled from detention and put in a closet. Bender does, by Vernon. And Vernon starts threatening him. Now, folks, I don't know about... I can actually speak to what it's like to be threatened by a teacher. I have been threatened by a teacher. I've been pulled out of class and threatened, and bodily harm threatened upon me. And let me just tell you, it isn't fun. Especially at that specific time in my life, because at that time I had been bullied mercilessly and I was not going to take any more. Thankfully, the teacher didn't put hands on me. But back to the movie, I understand the mindset that was basically going through Bender's mind. He doesn't like, or he's offered a chance to take a good shot at Vernon, and Vernon does deserve it. There's no doubt in my mind that Vernon deserves exactly what he gets. So which also is a continuity error, because he's like, come on, give me one good shot. Come on. And when the camera is focused on Vernon, he's using his right hand. But when they go to the side shot where it shows both Vernon and Bender, he's using his left hand, and it's a continuity error that you barely notice, but it is there. This movie is rife with continuity errors. It really is. But for the most part, the movie is still solid. So, after he tells him, he's like, "You are nothing but a gutless piece of shit. And once you're out and once everybody's forgotten about you, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, you know?" And what it literally is like, you don't fucking say that to a student. And he's like, "Oh, what? You're going to tell somebody? I'm a man of respect around here. What are you? Nobody's going to believe you. You're a gutless little shit. And everybody knows it." So, yes, Vernon can get away with that, unfortunately. And so then he locks him in the closet and uses the bathroom. And he grabs one of the toilet cover thingies that they used back then. And while this is happening, Bender escapes. He's climbing through the rafters and shit, and he's telling a joke about a naked blonde in a bar with a salami in one hand and a duck in the other. And he's like, "I don't suppose you're going to need a drink." And the woman goes, and then he crashes. He's like, "Oh, shit." It was fucking hilarious. And you hear freaking Vernon in the toilet taking a dump, and he's like, "Jesus Christ, what is going almighty? What is going on?" And you then see Vernon walking down the stairs. And they're all looking at him like, "What the fuck? I forgot my pencil." So he grabs his pencil, and then Vernon comes barging in. And you see that all the kids are sitting at their areas. He's like, "What was that ruckus just now? What ruckus? We didn't hear no ruckus." And you see that freaking Judd is just Bender's underneath the table with Molly and Molly Ringwald's character, or Claire and Andrew, the princess and the athlete. And he bumps his head, and they're all doing little bumps, slaps, knocks, and whatnot to basically keep the teacher. How the teacher does not see Andrew, it is beyond me, or know that he's there. And then Andrew, or not Andrew, but Bender is looking between Molly Ringwald's legs. The scene of the very famous scene between the legs, and and Claire just squeezes her legs tight, and you hear freaking Judd go, "Oh!" She's like, "Ah!" Is that? And then she steps on his hands and whatnot, and she's like, "You are such an asshole." After the guy leaves, and you see that he has the toilet cover, still attached to his ass. I mean, from the bathroom. It is hilarious. So then they're like, so they get the weed, and freaking peer pressure is the theme of this. He's like, "You ain't blazing up in here." Emilio Estevez is the odd one out, where you then see freaking the Brain smoking weed, and then you see Claire smoking weed, and Molly Ringwald doesn't. She's the only one that doesn't partake. So while this is going on, you see Vernon in the file room looking through the confidential files, and the janitor catches him. And he's like, "Confidential files." He's like, "What do you want me to do for you?" $50. $50? Yeah, $50. And so freaking Vernon does kind of get his comeuppance in a way. So then we see that freaking Anthony Michael Hall is just fucking blazed up the shit. And he's like, "High five." Whoa. And he freaking gets knocked over. And Bender and Claire talk about Bender's girlfriends. And he's like, some of them, not all of them, because she's looking at pictures in the in his wallet, and he's like, and it's a nice little conversation between them. So then you have freaking Andrew, who is hasn't yet partook in the weed, but he's sitting with uh Brian and Ali Sheedy, and she's slowly coming out of her shell, where she's like, "You want to see what's in my bag?" And Andrew and or both Brain and Athlete are like, "No." She just dumps it, and it is all sorts of stuff. She has a very unsatisfying home life, which when they kind of probe a little bit, they ask her what is wrong, and you kind of understand there might be a hint of something that is she's being abused at home, until you find out that they ignore her. Her parents ignore her, and she needs the attention. She is apparently has been ignored all her life, and so when she moves, or when she is stepping away from them, and Emilio asks her, he's like, "Talk to us. What's going on?" You don't, and she's like, "Nothing. Go away." You don't dump your bag into other people or on other people's laps and expect them not to ask you what's going on. She's almost very feline, Ali Sheedy, in her acting in this part, and she is also very bipolar, which fits the feline narrative, so to speak. No, and then you see that she's like, "My parents ignore me," and he understands that too. So while Vernon and the janitor are talking about the kids, the teacher feels betrayed. Vernon feels betrayed. He's like, "These kids turned on me. I've been teaching for 22 years, yada yada yada." And the janitor tells him, he's like, "They haven't changed. You did. You thought it would be easy, and it's just that you gotten more arrogant and sour over the years." So the group connect, and while the group is starting to connect and whatnot, or we also see the scene where Emilio blazes up. He comes out of one room that's all smoked up. He does his little workout dance all around the uh upper tier of the library. And then he gets back in and he goes, "Ah!" and shatters the window. It's so great. And my niece is still snoozing. Zoe is snoozing away. So then we get the scene where they're all sitting together, bonding with each other, and while they're connecting, you know that um they grill Claire a little bit, and then you find out that Claire has never had sex after Ali Sheedy basically traps her with the discussion. She's like, "It's a trap. If you admit you have, then you're a slut. If you admit that you haven't, you're a prude." And they're like, "And what about you?" "Me, of course, or I've done it several times, and with my therapist and whatnot." And then you find out, or after they're like, "Answer the question, Claire." I said, "No, I've never did it." And then she's like, "Neither have I. I'm not a nymphomaniac. I'm a compulsive liar." It's like, oh shit. So Ali Sheedy does a wonderful job getting caught up in that moment with with them. And then they start discussing why they got detention. And the emotional chords of the remorse felt from Emilio Estevez for what he did. Each character, or Emilio Estevez's character, Andrew, the athlete, he assaulted another student and taped his butt cheeks together with duct tape. So when they were removed, and he was the student was very hairy, and when they tried taking the tape off, skin came off too, so it resulted in grievous injury. Honestly, that usually could constitute as some serious jail time. And when Emilio is going over this, he's like, I can only imagine the shame that kid felt going home after what I did to him. I just started wailing on him, and then I taped it and whatnot, and I did it for my old man because he used to be a rowdy asshole in high school and whatnot. And he realizes how much he hates his father for having to feel that he needs to live up to his expectations all the time. And he really does. You really feel for Emilio Estevez. Every scene in this area is award worthy. This entire scene where they are going through their stuff, it really does. It should have won awards. I'm sorry, it should have. So then Brian starts talking, and he's like, I understand completely what that's like, but for me, it's for my grades. I can't get an F. And he got so obsessed with staying on top that one failure would lead him to doing something stupid. But before they get to that, Claire does a little lipstick trick where she puts it in between her bra and then she puts on her lipstick, and she tells them, or she makes them promise not to laugh. And then Bender brings the mood down. He really pisses her off and whatnot. And when Claire they're all starting to be friends, and Brian, he's like, when school or class resumes and whatnot, I kind of see you guys as my friends right now. So what's going to happen come Monday? And she's like, you want the truth? No, we're not going to be friends. And Andrew is willing to stay friends with Brian. And Claire calls him out on it. Claire's honesty and her need to maintain the status quo puts her in a way that gets her rightfully shamed. Now, before we get further into that, the lipstick continuity error is where you see her put the lipstick away directly after the scene, but then they ask her, where'd you learn to do that? She's putting it away again. So the conversation then leads to how she says, you don't know the pressure that we go through, being who we are and what's expected of us. And Brian, he's like, I don't understand pressure, Claire. I don't understand pressure. Fuck you. Fuck you. And he starts crying. And you really feel for this kid when he breaks down and talks about how he's failing shop class. And the tone shifts heavily because he's like, you want to know what I did to get in here? Do you? I brought a gun they found a gun in my locker. And they're like, what's the gun for? Never mind. You brought it up, man. And he's like, I can't fail. I have to maintain my grades. I cannot fail. And he failed shop class because he was supposed to build a ceramic elephant lamp. Now, my aunt once told me about a person who committed suicide, who was a friend of hers, who committed suicide because they had one bad grade. And that is basically the same as Brian's character. He had one bad grade, which he got an F, and that results in, even if he gets straight A's, it's still going to be a B at the end of the year. So he realized that the elephant trunk to the ceramic light didn't go on, and he brought in the flare gun, and the flare gun went off in his locker, and it destroyed the fucking elephant. He's like, fucking elephant was destroyed. It's funny, but the seriousness of the tone also keeps it from being too. He's like, it's not funny, and they're trying their best not to laugh, but they eventually start doing. He's like, actually, it is. Yeah, it is funny, and he's like, fucking elephant was destroyed, and Bender is the one that actually starts laughing after they say, or after he says it's okay to laugh, you know? So a lot of, or also some, oh, hold on one moment. Yeah, I accidentally erased something I shouldn't have. So each of these students got put into Saturday detention for something, except for Ali Sheedy. She's like, you want to know what I did to get in here? Nothing. I had nothing better to do. They all laughed at her and laughed with her. Judd Nelson, he pulled a fire alarm and fought with faculty and students. And it led to a nice little scene where Vernon was calling him out before the whole weed smoking scene. He's like, I bet, what if it was your dope that was on fire? He's like, impossible, sir. It's in Johnson's underwear. Oh, you think you're cute with that, huh? Do you? And it's just so freaking great, you know? So then after they talk to each other and whatnot and get to know that they are friends and that they do care about each other, you see the very famous Breakfast Club dances where you see the boys doing their manly dance and you see the girls doing their little cat sideways dance. And then you see Claire and or you see the girl time, and they're talking about the paper too. So they're like, or they have Andrew write up the paper because he's the smartest, and they would all be writing the same thing. So then you also get a little girl time between Claire and Allison, Ali Sheedy's character, where she puts makeup on Ali Sheedy and takes the goth look away. And then she visits Bender. Claire does in the closet. And my question is, how did she get the key to the door? Also, where is Vernon and why is he not checking up on these students? I mean, these students have been doing all sorts of different things. I guess he's just too busy talking with the janitor, you know? But it does make you wonder what they, or where he is for this humongous point or period of time. So, Ali Sheedy, when she comes out with the makeup, she looks at, or the brain, Andrew looks up at her. And she looks at Andrew, gives him a serious look, and he smiles. He's like, "You look good." And she whispers, "Thank you." And then she looks at Emilio Estevez. He's like, "What happened to you?" And she's like, "What? Claire did it." "No, you look good." And Ali Sheedy and Emilio Estevez kind of hook up, you know? And it is really a touching scene. And then you see Claire kiss Bender on the neck. And he's like, why'd you do that? Because you wouldn't let me. And he's like, you know how you said you wanted to get back at your parents? Wouldn't I be outstanding in that capacity? So it is just so freaking great. And you see that these characters are all bonding together. So when they're all walking out, the Breakfast Club basically says goodbye to Carl, the janitor, and then they start going their separate ways. And Ali Sheedy gets or kisses Emilio Estevez and rips his patch off. and then, or from his varsity jacket. And she gets into her car and he gets into his car with his parents. And then you see Bender and Claire have a kiss, and Claire gives him the earring. And so hold on one second, folks. And they have her there. Oh, yeah. How you doing, Riot? Good to see you. Mm-hmm. And you then see them share the kiss, and then she gives him one of her diamond earrings. When she drives off, he immediately pops it in. And he's then walking by, and then you see Vernon walk in to to read the note or the paper that Andrew wrote for the Breakfast Club. And it says, "Dear Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice a whole Saturday in detention for whatever it was we did wrong. But we think you're crazy to make us write an essay telling you who we think we are. You see us as you want to see us, in the simplest terms and the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each of us is a brain," and then it goes to Emilio Estevez, an athlete, Ali Sheedy, a basket case, Molly Ringwald saying a princess, and Judd Nelson saying a criminal. Does that answer your back to Andrew? Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club. And during this, you're hearing the song from Simple Minds, "Don't You Forget About Me." And as this goes on, you also see Bender walking away through the gym or through the field, the football field, and he does his air bump or his fist bump in the air like this. Now, a lot of people have asked, why did he do that? Well, hold on one second. She's waking up a little bit. And the reason why that Bender actually does that is because he has a fulfilling relationship. He's found what he actually wants in his life, So that actually is going to lead to the end of the review. Objectively, I would put Breakfast Club at about a 7 out of 10. The continuity errors and the camera errors, they do chip away at the objective quality of the film. Subjectively, however, this movie is 10 out of 10. I absolutely enjoyed it. Moviegoer, I will put it at about a 9 out of 10. It's because of a slow burn pace, but it's very good. It's a very good burn. It's a movie that a lot of people who were alive at the time really enjoyed it, and people who grew up during that time also enjoy it. I don't know how people nowadays would see it. Well, I could guess how some of the SJWs out there would see this movie. They would absolutely hate it because of a lot of the things that are in it. They would say that it's not woke enough. It's all a bunch of white people and whatnot, which is stupid. I know, but I've never seen The Breakfast Club. Actually, maybe one clip on YouTube. Honestly, Riot? Yep. Honestly, Riot, I highly suggest that you check it out. And John Hughes made some great movies. Yes, he did. He really did. But that's also going to end the review here. But I am going to give you guys two hints for the next mystery review. And the next hint, or these hints are Hell Week and Seek Life Elsewhere. those are going to be the 2 hints. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Riot Kitty. Thank you to everybody. Happy Dino, Craig, Price is Right Reviews, Captain Shrek. Thank you to everyone who paid attention and who put up with my niece while she was playing around. And thank you for your patience while I was having to deal with her as well. It was really good it was an enjoyable review, folks. So thank you so much. If you know the answers to the next review, don't spoil it for anyone. Send me a DM on Twitter. And yep, I will talk to you all later. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Have a wonderful night, folks. And always remember, stay humble.